you all are enjoying your lunch. I've got a couple of people that I didn't call up at the beginning that I want to. Steve Klaver from DBI, whose furniture you're probably sitting on because they've done everything in this region. You guys are putting on really a seminar.
Yeah, we are. Hi, I'm Steve Klaver from DBI, and we are doing a seminar with Hayward at the Farm Bureau headquarters over on West Saginaw, and we redid their headquarters. Chris was at the open house. It really turned out unbelievably beautiful. But Ann Harden, who is the Vice President of their Global Human Resources, Hayward's Global Human Resources, is going to do a seminar and talk about the psychology of space and how it affects your organization and the people and getting them back in the office and that type of thing. So it's next Tuesday, the 18th, 2 to 2:30 is registration, 2:30 to 3:30 Ann's going to speak, and then 3:30 to 5 you're going to be able to do building tours of Farm Bureau's building. And it is beautiful. I mean,
And what's the cost?
Yeah, the cost is the same as it is for this. But if anybody would like to RSVP, just see me afterwards and I'll take your email and I'll get you all the pertinent information. But we'd love to have you there. It's, like I said, Farm Bureau's building turned out just really beautiful.
It's a good opportunity. Jeff, take the mic back in the corner too. I've got a couple of ladies that are always hiding from me and I want to report from them. Let's hear from AARP, Paula.
Hey, thanks, Chris, and thank you. I'm going to say this. I know I embarrass Chris whenever I talk about this, but the program that he started when he was the volunteer state president for AARP is still up and running, and that's Experience for Hire. And just today, being here for 1 hour, I've spoken to 3 of you about that program. You've asked me about that program. We are hoping to be able to have another in-person Experience for Hire program early next year. We want to thank MEDC. Chris has been reaching out to them, and they've been very supportive of working with us, as well as Michigan Works. Chris sits on the board for Michigan Works, so they've been very supportive as well. But that program is still up and running, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you're looking for older adults, CPAs, teachers, tool and die technicians, whomever that you want to get back into the workplace. Number 2, this morning I left a press conference about the affordability of prescription drugs. We want to make certain that our legislature holds Big Pharma accountable and transparent about the cost of prescription drugs. Something like insulin has increased over 100% and it hasn't changed in 50 years. So older adults are making decisions every day about whether to pay their mortgage, whether to buy their groceries, or to pay for Xarelto or something for blood thinners or whatever. And so we're just saying, let's just look at the numbers and see exactly what you're accountable and see whether or not the costs are justified. And then last, there's something called Ethel's Place that we're launched in Lansing Mall. And that's for people who have dementia, early signs of dementia, a friendly place for them to go once a month. We've got karaoke, we've got fun games and activities going on that's all free. People there with dementia, they don't get a chance to get out. The caregivers don't get a chance to get out very much. So when you're in an environment where you see other people are going through the same thing that you're going through with dementia and brain health, it's really just uplifting and fun for them to be together. We had a gentleman break out singing the national anthem, and there wasn't a dry eye in the place. So they're just fun things that are going on. But if you're not an AARP member, and I don't usually sell memberships, but it's more than just insurance. That's more than just discounts. It's about real work, real people, and real communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bitzer, if you'd like to give us what's the latest from United Way.
Thanks, Chris. I'm pleased to report that the United Way's Alice report, its latest edition, is available on our website. And we're happy to come out and have conversation and explain Alice, asset limited, income constrained, and employed. These are your workers who are above the federal poverty level, but below a stability budget. So they struggle to make ends meet month after month. And there are a number of resources on our website. But I would really want to make sure that you hear and know that we are beginning some pilot projects here in Lansing. It's a project called United for Alice at Work, and it is designed to come in and work alongside a company who is interested in making sure that they have the right policies and supports to support employees who are in that Alice population. It is an assessment plus 6 weeks of content curriculum that helps those companies make decisions about the policies and practices they would like to put in place to better support Alice workers. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, appreciate it, great. Thank you, ladies. Let's start by giving a hand to professional party planners. They're the caterers of the day today. All right, now we want to bring up a couple of very distinguished guests for you. You can read their bios, of course, in today's programs on the table. I've known Glenn Stevens for many years, more than he cares to admit, I know. Glenn is the Executive Director of MICHauto and serves as the Detroit Regional Chamber's Vice President of Automotive and Mobility Initiatives. And in his role, he provides strategic direction and leadership to MICHauto in its role as the statewide industry association to promote, grow, and retain Michigan's automotive and next generation mobility industries. And I'm stumbling a little there because I was recalling that the policy conference up at Mackinac, and at every interview we did, we saw Glenn walk by with a different set of dignitaries to a back room where he was telling them what was going on and how we can all work together. So he's been incredible in that area. MICHauto is focused on developing the state's automotive and mobility industry in the key areas of talent, advocacy, awareness, startup innovation, and next generation mobility and the digital economy. And its responsibilities are also centered on strategic fundraising in conjunction with investor engagement and retention. And he has, for more than 30 years of management, strategy, and operations experience across the automotive industry, has been a leader. He's been in steel, specialty chemicals, capital equipment industry, so well-rounded individual. We're happy to have him up. And so with that, Glenn, if you'd like to come up, take a seat up here. It seems we have a sensitive mic, so when you're passing it back and forth, just be careful. Where the gloves that we put on your, no. Carrie Ebersol Singh is the Chief Talent Solutions. Oh, you're bringing the solutions. Thank you. Solutions and Engagement Officer. Carrie leads MEDC's strategic focus of developing high-wage skills, growth by working with businesses, higher education institutions, and communities to better attract, retain, and cultivate the talent critical to growing the state's economy. Prior to serving at MEDC, Carrie was director of the Office of 60 by 30 in the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, LEO as we all know it, where she established that office. During her time as director, Carrie launched 2 instrumental programs, Futures for Frontliners and My Reconnect, as in Michigan Reconnect, which aim to create a more talented workforce by providing a tuition-free path for Michiganders pursuing in-demand certificates or associate's degrees. Now, in this capacity, she also served as the chair of the My STEM Council, designed to improve and promote innovation and collaboration in STEM education and prepare students for careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So, Carrie, if you would join us up here. Now we're going to have maybe 5-7 minutes somewhere in there of a presentation from each. So, Glenn, if you would like to start it.
We already started.
Oh, I'm sorry. Geez, for a minute there, I thought I was in charge. Sure. Carrie, go ahead.
Sure, okay. I will try to be delicate with the mic here. Well, it's so awesome to see everyone today. I know reconnecting with some old friends that I haven't seen in a while, and I actually missed the census work I did because that's when I worked with Paula Cunningham, and we did some communication effort on that, important to the state back then. But I gotta tell you, we have a lot to be excited about. There's challenges. We'll talk about those too and how we're mobilizing. The state is trying to mobilize to support businesses and communities across the state, but there's a lot of excitement in the air. And I say that in part, I just came from Grand Rapids this morning. MSU is a finalist for a $160 million grant from the NSF for the Engines grant. And this would be a significant infusion into the R&D for the circular economy. And it was a breath of amazing entrepreneurs as well as leadership from both Michigan State University, its collaboration with Ohio State University as well. And this would be a huge infusion and support into a really critical area of our economy. And so that is exciting. That is just one federal opportunity that is happening right now amongst many, many others.
All right.
It's cutting in and out. Well.
Oh, sorry.
But, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what MEDC is doing in terms of helping support growing a talented ecosystem across the state. And we've been working hand in hand with industry. Glenn has been a great friend, and I'm really excited to do this panel with him as it relates to what we launched with the talent action teams. We launched first the EV and mobility talent action team, where we're working with a set of employers to not only identify their top priority occupations that they needed to hire for, but looking at tailored curriculum that needed to happen both at 2- and 4-year institutions and recruitment strategies. And I would say one thing that is a little bit different than other states that are working on talent and workforce challenges is we are really looking at this from a PK through career strategy. And through that work, we've identified a couple of things that we're launching over the next few months. One is we're gamifying STEM education. Does that sound exciting? I have a 6-year-old. He can do amazing things on his Switch and, my phone and all sorts of things. But, it's all about gamifying education in a lot of ways. And we want to also create more availability for access, because we know we don't have enough educators across the state that have been trained in STEM and the P3 model of engagement. So we are working on that platform that will be launched. We're talking to both the Eaton and Ingham ISDs to help be pilots for those to help engage at that level of school age, as well as customization of CTE programs as well to meet employer needs. And then of course, you all know, we have to say how wonderful LCC and their work here within the region and beyond. The times I sat in a lot of boardrooms with Bo over the last several months, as well as President Robinson, and it's just such a value to our community and such a highlight as we talk to employers. But they're obviously a key part of the solution, but also those 4-year institutions have been doing profound thing, not just in innovation and R&D, but creating that pipeline of talent. And we've also, for the retention strategies, we are piloting a program called the Michigander Scholars. And that first cohort is the availability for a scholarship for $10,000 for anyone graduating as an electrical engineer or software engineer that accepts a job at one of our core employers. And that has launched earlier this year. We're probably going to do another cohort in the semiconductor arena as well. All that to say is cultivating talent, PK through career, being very strategic and working hand in glove with education and industry. We're sprinkling in some resources. Think about this as a pilot format. We only spent, I think, $24 million this year. So it's not to scale across the state everywhere in everything, but we are adding strategic investments to some of the higher ed institutions. And then last, the retention and then the attraction. We launched a campaign. It's about a $10 million investment that has been launched in phases this year. The third phase will be launching September 29th. And this is our first take at really getting more aggressive in terms of attracting new people to the state, helping retain, articulating that value proposition of why no one should go anywhere. We are the Great Lakes state, we have trails, we have these incredible cities and amenities, and we're articulating that value proposition on top of you can also lead an amazing, rewarding career here. So we're doing that both in-state and in out-of-state pilot markets. So we're really excited to learn through that endeavor as well. So lots of exciting things, and I know there are challenges, and I look forward to the discussion because there are things that we are learning along the way in terms of recruitment, and I think it's an important aspect for employers to have really a clear-eyed vision in terms of best practices on those recruitment strategies, because it is important. So with that, I will cede the floor to my colleague.
Just tell me what you want to do.
Thanks, everybody. I talk to a lot of people at the state on a regular basis, but I don't talk to anybody more than I talk to Carrie, because she is working on, together with us, the most important thing. There is no growth, there are no businesses, there isn't anything unless we have the talent to feed it, so we really collaborate a lot. Thanks for having me and us. I really enjoyed that roundtable to get a perspective on what your businesses are up to and what's going on in your community. I travel around the entire state. Chris knows and Carrie knows I'm from Marquette, so you have to go through most of the state to get to Marquette. But I do, the auto mobility tech industry touches almost every community, literally. So that's why I get around. It's nice to hear what's going on in your community. So I'll tell you two quick stories. One is what I did last week, and what I did for the last 10 years. They will be short.
Okay.
I just spent the last week driving a 55 Ford Country Squire station wagon from Wyoming back to Michigan. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Every year they do this. It's called the Drive Home, and they bring classic cars back to Detroit to kind of kick off the Detroit Auto Show. I'm not doing the last leg today because I'm here, but tomorrow they'll roll these 4 station wagons in, and it's done by the LeMay Museum, which has an automotive trust, and it's all intended about the heritage of the industry, but about talent attraction. So, for example, we had Harry Smith from NBC News with us for a couple days, and we visited a high school in Sundance, Wyoming, and we had the shop class out, and then we had the whole school. We had all 160 kids out there from that school to talk to them about the auto industry and the heritage and the opportunities. And these kids were under the hood, and it was just really cool. I can tell you that a 55 Ford does not go over 60 miles an hour, does not have power steering, and does not have air conditioning. And in South Dakota, when it's 95 for 6 hours, it's hot. But it was fun. It was a great trip. So the last 10 years, I've been focused on what's important to the signature industry in Michigan. And that's promoting that industry, growing that industry, and retaining that industry. So I left my other part of my career and helped run an organization that we actually started in 2007. And the reason we started is that, believe it or not, there was not a group that was focused on the biggest industry that Michigan had. We were really taking it for granted. Now, we've been through several governors. I will tell you that Governor Snyder, when he took office, did not understand the automotive and mobility industry, but boy, by the time he left, he was all in. And he was putting things in place every month. We had a 45-minute meeting in his office to go over what was going on in the industry, both current, future, and things that were exciting, like drones and hydrogen and things like that. Now, Governor Whitmer doesn't know much about the industry, but 2 years prior to her being elected, she reached out. I met her, and she said to me, please tell me about this industry, and what is this mobility word? She said that. I remember we were downtown, so we sat down with her several times. We also sat down with the other candidate a little bit, but she was really receptive to it, and I can tell you that she has carried forward with Governor Snyder, started with regards to this commitment to talent and where the industry's going, because as you all know, it's changing fast. So what we're in the middle of all these years is this evolution of the auto industry in becoming the tech industry, becoming the mobility industry, which is now intersecting with the energy industry because of primarily electrification. So the grid and the charging network are as important as the rest of the supply chain to us, and that's what we're focused on for the future. And we'll talk a little bit about what the priorities are in the Q&A, but the most important thing we do to come full circle, we advocate for the industry, here in Lansing and in DC, but there's nothing more important than the work we do with our partners, including Carrie's team, on the talent development to drive the future of the industry across all sectors of Michigan's economy.
I also want, so you can conjure up this visual, that it was a Woody. The 55 was a Woody. If you know what those are, it had the wood siding on it. That's pretty bitchin'. All right, so I'm going to acquiesce to your order of answering, so I'll ask the first question of Carrie. All right? Carrie, what's the overall mission of the MEDC? And also tell us about your unique role with the MEDC.
Sure. Overall, we want to support opportunities, support our employers, support the residents of the state of Michigan in their growth and journey on careers, and providing pursuit of happiness here in Michigan. And that Pure Michigan dream is really both the combo of both as an economic development agency, but also as the agency that is taking a leadership role in recruiting talent to stay in the state, and obviously our tourism brand as well. So that is our lead mission in terms of supporting employers and opportunities in the state to become the fastest growing, most equitable economy in North America is kind of the overarching goal. My role at the MEDC is a new role over the last year and a half. As you know, many of you have probably seen Quentin Messer, our CEO. When he came into the state 2 years ago, he was meeting with a variety of stakeholders. Everyone was talking about talent, workforce, talent. What are you doing about talent? How are you going to support us? So he decided to create an executive level position to focus on a strategy to assist our state in this time, and that then launched our work over the last year and a half. In part, a lot of planning, a lot of listening in terms of we wanted to leverage the current assets that the state has, like the Michigan Works System, and you all have an amazing CEO here in this region with Carrie Rosendana, who's been a great partner to us. And we also took a huge focus with higher ed. It's not too, you said bitchin', I almost said a cuss word too, but I'll refrain. We went through our stakeholders, we were talking to an executive over at Michigan State University, and we asked the question, well, how are you all engaged with the state's economic development strategy? Their answer was, we're not. And that was shocking and upsetting, as you can imagine, and I was a little bit blown away by how we weren't leveraging a key asset in our state with our higher ed institutions. So we have made huge strides over the last year and a half in terms of not only engaging the best and brightest on campus to talk about how they can build the right capacity in key degree areas for those in-demand occupations, but also working about recruitment strategies to retain those graduates in the state, but also the amazing innovation that is happening, and really having a deeper conversation about, okay, once we have those patents and startups, how do we retain those businesses and entrepreneurs in the state, because entrepreneurs are also a key piece of the talent ecosystem within the state. So we have gone a long stretch. It started, we have a small team on the talent solutions team. There's a mighty 10 of us that includes myself. And we've been really getting into implementation phases just in the last 8 months, so since January. So it's been a wild ride.
All right, very good. Glenn, what are the major trends and forces that are changing the automobility industry and other industries, really?
There's two. That's digitalization and sustainability. I mean, there are lots of other things going on, but if you look at the industry today, and you look at all industries, everything is connected, everything is digital. I mean, from the factory floor to the vehicle to the cloud, if you just look at the auto industry, everything is a digital interaction. And so our talent, our skills Our people have to be able to interact with that and work in that world, from basic level jobs all the way to coding jobs to higher engagement like software engineers. I mean, there aren't any jobs that aren't going to touch this in one way or another. And I think we all know that. And of course, sustainability, for all the reasons we all know about, but it's not just about electrification. There's a huge hydrogen initiative, primarily for the bigger trucks that are on the road, but also for power systems. We're working on some cool projects around that. But those are the two main drivers, and they're big umbrellas, a lot fits under them, but that's what's driving things right now.
So, this for both of you, and you can pass it back and forth. What factors will be key to enabling our mobility industry growth here in Michigan? And actually, all of our industries.
Yeah, I think both of us work at the intersection of government, education, and industries. And that's where our work is, because if those three are not talking to each other, we're not going to get to where we need to go. So, I mean, it's not that complex of an equation when you look at what drives growth for a state like Michigan or anywhere. And so we have to have a business climate for the companies that exist here today. That's the most important thing. I think sometimes we get caught up in, oh, we need more businesses, we need more of this, we need more of that. But if you don't take care of the current customer you have, then what do you have? Nothing. I mean, that's kind of, you all know that in your businesses, but that's the way we have to look at economic development. So that business climate is really important, really, really important. The second thing is it's about communities. It's about strong communities and about place. And that's why people go to where they go. That's why businesses thrive, because of that. And the third thing is talent, it's people. And that's the primary driver, because businesses grow because they're enabled by people and the talent that they need to drive their business, and companies are attracted to places that have that too. So when we look at businesses or where people live and why people move and why people are attracted to areas, it's a combination of those things working together.
I think that was really well said. I think I would only add that, on the talent front, there's only 3 ways to increase the workforce. One is we have to create a larger net and building more STEM skills from younger ages coming out of the secondary school system, but then we can retain graduates, people that come here from out of state to school, retain them, keep them, match them with the job, sell them on the pure Michigan lifestyle, and then attraction. Those are the 3 things that we need to do. And I think some of the pieces that Glenn outlined is, especially for Gen Z, I heard it earlier this morning, that kids these days that are in school, they want a mission, not a major. And I think when we talk about, the focus of sustainability, not only for the industry, it's going to be attractive to younger workers, but I think it's also how we're positioning the state and the reality of the impacts of climate change and how we have to be stewards of the Great Lakes and what it's going to take for young people to help solve some of these world problems, and Michigan being a centralized piece to providing that leadership is really a position that we are trying to garner. And I think it's really, the place, I won't start talking about vibes, because I start talking about vibes in certain downtown cities, and that's what people are looking for. Like, it's a look and a feel, and they want to have amenities that connect to them and their way of life, and it's a really important thing that I'm grateful to the legislature. They've positioned $300 million for placemaking in the last budget, among other investments to help support our communities. So I'll end it there.
I just want to add one thing. I mean, we're both going to tell you there's a lot of good things going on, but we also don't pull any punches. That's why I probably get along so well. I mean, there's 2 things that really concern me. We talk about population a lot. We all do. I mean, it's the number one thing, but there's still 10 million people here. And the 2 things are, we have a very low labor force participation rate compared to competitive places around the country. Somewhere around 35, 40, sometimes we get up to 30, but that's not acceptable when you rank up the states. The thing that disturbs me the most is the ratio of counselors to students in our schools. We're 48th in the country. That's not acceptable. no wonder there's a labor force participation rate, because we're not teaching and coaching at the same time. The national average is 450 students for one counselor. So, when I talk about taking care of our own customers, those are our citizens, people.
So, one of the things you brought up, Carrie Rosengan at the Capital Area Michigan Works, and one of the things we do, and I see Terry here back, who helps spearhead this, is career days, and we literally put through 2,500 students, and they look at over 60 exhibitors, and it's for those kids, some of their first exposure to career opportunity. And you're right when you talk about the counselors. Not every kid in Michigan sits at a dinner table and talks about what are you going to do. So we got to expose those. Another thing that I'd like your opinion on, that I think is at the end of the day the real solution, because the rest is pretty much arithmetic, is immigration reform. Can we have an impact on that from here? Good question, Chris.
No, yeah, we can.
It's a long game. I know, as many of us in this room understand, that federal policy does not move quickly. So it's a long game piece, but there are strategies that we are looking at and readying to deploy on that front. One of which is we have, I think the number's like 40,000 international students in the state, okay, that are on STEM visas, that working with them, matching them with employers, educating employers on what it takes to work with a visa holder, but they can stay on their current education visa for 2 years following graduation. And we are working with our employers, our core employers around our talent action teams to help bring them up to speed on what that takes. There's also some state resources that have been deployed through Global Detroit, even though Detroit in the name, but it's a statewide program as it relates to providing legal services to those visa holders. I would also, we are, as part of the talent marketing campaign I mentioned, we have a new website that will be launched September 29th. And part of that website is going to be driven, it's going to be positioned for people that don't live here, because as our Michigan Works friends know, they can't service folks that are not Michigan residents. So we are positioning for that attraction play, but also for folks that may not have a permanent residence here on those visa holders, to not only match them with a position, an employer opening to sponsor their visa, but also to future training opportunities as well. And it's going to be driven by AI in the background, so it'll be a very personalized experience. On top of that, we will also have lifestyle information in terms of all the regions in the state. So if folks have heard about Traverse City and they want to check out what's the look and feel up there, Marquette, etc., across the state, there's going to be information there. My dream, I can't remember if I said this to you, Steve, but my dream is to also include housing opportunities within that. So who's leasing, at what price point, you can take a visual tour right here. So if you think of a one-stop shop for anyone thinking about moving, because we got to make that, I mean, it's a big deal to move to another place. You got to think, how do we make this as easy and as seamless as possible? So long story, and then to your specific question, listen, long-term immigration reform at the federal level takes growing the masses and a movement and people saying and standing up to talk about the need not only for workforce needs, but really starting to advocate and growing momentum in that way. But
And I'll just add briefly, we all know that people came here to build this state. With the exception of Native Americans, our Canadian friends call them First Americans, we all came from someplace. My great-grandfather came from Finland to work in the mines in the copper country. People came from Alabama to staff the auto industry, and that's who we are. There is a lot of polarization, there's no question about it, and I was hopeful this administration would tackle immigration reform. It is not. I'm not holding my breath, so Michigan has to do what it can do, and that's A, be welcoming, and B, be tactical, and I do think the state is doing a really good job with partners like Global Detroit to go after this and say, look, people are coming here, they're getting educated, they start businesses of all nationalities, so let's figure out how to enable that. That's the way Michigan was built, and we've had a mindset that's gotten away from that. We have to get a mindset of getting back to that.
I think I'd also like to remind everybody in the room that we are all immigrants. So with that, Glenn, are we ready for EV and other propulsion technologies?
No, we're not, because the adoption curve has been quite quick and it's really uncertain. There's a lot in a country like ours that goes into EV adoption, but make no mistake about it, this is happening. There is no question that we're gonna see more and more and more, and it's gonna be a long curve. The internal combustion engine is not going anywhere anytime soon, but it's pretty complex. Yes, the vehicle changes, and the training and the technicians that train change, but you have an infrastructure that has to change, and that's not just the ports that you charge out of. And people forget that the grid includes transmission lines, and transmission lines take 7 years on average to permit, so we have a long road ahead of us. But I do think, I think it started under Governor Snyder, it's accelerated under Governor Whitmer. I think we have a good blueprint to grow with it. And that's important because even down to where chargers are placed, that's part of placemaking too. We work with communities all over the state, and I show them, you know, there's travel that occurs, and people come to Michigan in droves, and now a lot more are driving EVs, so we have to be ready for them. But at the end of the day, 80% of charging happens in homes, which is why our utility partners are so important to this. So I would say the answer is no, but we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. So Carrie, what are the industries in Michigan with the most acute needs for skilled talent?
Well, I think many people in here would say all of them. But where we started is, again, with our focus on EV and mobility, and part of that start is not only historically has it been our bread and butter and all the suppliers and impacts throughout our community, but because of the transition the industry is going on right now with the electrification of the industry. So we started there. We also moved into semiconductor, which, you know, some of our footprint for semiconductor companies in the state, SK Siltron, Hemlock Semiconductor, KLA in Ann Arbor, they all have workforce challenges, both in technician positions at the 2-year degree level, but also 4-year as well. And then also we're trying to leverage federal investments. It's also trying to leverage federal dollars to bring additional support, R&D work, and broth here into the state of Michigan. The next phase, and I haven't talked to you yet about this, Glenn, but we're looking at how we can better support talent needs that are really cross-industry needs. And I think that gets into some of what Chad mentioned earlier that VCI can do. I don't know if you mentioned accounting or, you know, headquarter type jobs that every business needs, but there's also high tech, you know, everyone needs software engineers or software developers. So there's some similarities across the board as much as we try to customize per employer need. I think we're starting to look at that target where it can be more impactful across the road. I do want to mention, because this is another shout out to our friends in the Michigan Work System, more on the west side of the state, but on the production level positions, this is what we've seen just by coming alongside 2 companies, LGES and Shape Corp, okay? And we just hyped up, lifted up some additional marketing, sprinkled some grant dollars to the local Michigan Works out there for the boots on the ground. And we, in 3.5 months, helped them hire 509 people. Okay? Which I think is a pretty good number, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for nodding. Sorry, I'm getting excited now, but I mentioned this, and what we're going to be working to do alongside the Right Place, who services, again, that West Michigan territory that is developing a retention and recruitment kind of best practices to, again, be a resource for employers. And, we've learned a lot both from the university setting, but we're also just learning a lot from this production worker recruitment. And we really want to be a partner with you all to help land your workforce needs. I don't want you thinking about going anywhere else. We want you to grow here, continue to be invested in our community. And then I ask, you gotta tell the world about it, because then I want more employers to locate here. So I just wanted to share that story and some of the traction that we're seeing out there.
Can I add one thing?
Yes?
I agree with everything she just said. There's absolutely all those needs, and those are great solutions. But I will underscore, I'm gonna put somebody in a spot here, that the biggest need is helping our own kids. So Barb and Carl, you wanna stand real quick? You didn't know I was gonna do this. So Carl helped start, and Barb runs a thing called Square One Network, right? Everybody's heard of First Robotics? So this is Michigan's version of First Robotics. They have how many teams now?
Oh gosh, we're up to about 150.
150 teams around the state, and you can sit. Thanks. I want you to stand. They're working with our kids across our schools who will go into different disciplines. Yeah, some will be software engineers, but some will go into HR, and some will work on vehicles in a dealership, and some will become plumbers, but that is what we need. And I just love this program. We're working really closely with them because it's really building our own farm system. You have to build your own farm system. Yeah, we're gonna attract people, and I'm glad they're doing what they're doing at the state. I completely support it. But we gotta grow our own and keep our own. And by the way, people around the world for centuries wind up staying close to home and living where if you give them the right reasons. It's been proven through time.
So, are you seeing, there was a time when drug testing was a big deal, and of course, when employers started seeing the number of employees drop, that went away. Recently, it used to be that they said bachelor's degree necessary. So are we seeing now a trend to more customized training, upskilling programs, that sort of thing?
Yes, I mean, if you look at a company like, is it AP Laser? Plasma? I can't remember. AP Laser. My guess is that they're looking at it really holistically like all of you are. First of all, let's start with giving people a break in life, right? Give people a second chance, give people a shot, don't judge them. All companies, from General Motors to small companies, are saying, you know what? Let's stop all these boxes, let's stop all these credentials, let's look for real talent, and let's cultivate real talent. So that's a big shift, right? That's a really big shift. But then it comes to, what do companies need and how do we fulfill them and what skills are needed, and there is no answer. It's all the above. Because again, that kid or that person you're giving a second chance to, all they need to know is that they can make $100,000 driving a truck for Consumers Power easy, right? Or they can be an apprentice, or they can learn to program that robot. But we have to get them into those places. So I think it's really all the above. But we do need high-end technical talent, because digital technical talent will drive growth for all companies.
My only addition would be, use the phrase competency-based hiring. And we will sit and challenge employers, like, do you really need a bachelor's on this? Like, let's go through the exact functions and walk through, right track, okay. And go through exactly not only the use cases, but the exact skills that folks need to be successful in the position. So there is a trend, but there's also a need for that high-tech piece that you mentioned at the end too, Glenn.
Well, listen, we have time now to get to one of the questions that came to the floor, actually one each. So Carrie, can you elaborate on Michigander Scholars?
Sure. This was, again, through our work and engagement with a set of employers, they talked about a need for assistance on their recruitment strategies and looking at how we can do a better job of retaining some of our top graduates that come out. Don't go to Chicago. It's only going to be, you're going to be there 3 years, you're going to come home. Just stay here. How can we increase or up the ante a bit for those graduates? And so the theory came out, we would do $10,000 scholarship. Only we budgeted just for $350 for this year, and focused on 2 hiring positions that were prioritized by the ED and mobility, and that is that electrical engineer and software developer. And you can also have, if you're not a senior, if you're a junior, you can qualify for internship and earn $5,000 towards your tuition. Now here's the cool thing. So we are working with a set of pilot institutions to implement this. Once they secure their job opportunity, they have to commit to staying in the state for at least a year. And we cut a check to their tuition, the financial aid office, it gets applied to the tuition. If it's 0 as graduating seniors, they get a rebate check from their school. So it is like a signing bonus or cash in the pocket. Again, this is just our first year in implementing this. We just launched it in March. I know semiconductor, companies in the state were like, we want that too. So I think we're going to try to broaden that out into some key, again, occupational areas that can be more impactful across various industry sectors. So more to come on that, but that's kind of the basic, background on that.
All right, and Glenn, we'll end with a real softball here. How are the union negotiations going? And what should we be doing to prepare?
Well, we'll find out at midnight in a couple days. It's been tenuous, but it's such a dynamic playing field right now. And I try not to use the word unprecedented because it's overused, so I use uncharted. We are, but if you think about all the dynamics that are going around, electrification coming, all the trials that the union went through itself, what the OEMs, the car companies have gone through themselves, and it's all smashing together right now in a very different labor climate, where we've had incredible inflation. I'm optimistic, but I'm also not a prognosticator. I don't want to stick my neck out on whether there will be or won't be a strike. All we have done, and we will beat the drum, is to say that if there's a work stoppage, it will have extremely detrimental impact to Michigan's economy and to particularly small companies who struggle every day with their balance sheet. But right now, because of all the pressures on them, they will really struggle. And I can tell you that all the companies are making contingency plans to lay people off, cut back, and we just really hope we won't see that. And if we do see it, we hope it's very, very short. I'm kind of optimistic because they had a good weekend of negotiating. But prior to that, I would have said it was a 100% chance. I'm not so sure about that now, but we'll see what happens. But again, we can't stress how important this industry is to our economy. To put it in context, the last strike was in 2019, and it had it was a very short strike, but it had a 1/4 recession in Michigan at one company. So that puts it in context for you. So I don't want to ramble on a little bit. I'm optimistic, but I also think we need to be prepared, and then we'll move on. Because listen, these two sides, they're not sides, they're partners. They got each other to where they're at. They need to get us into the future. And believe me, everybody in the world, including non-union states, wants a piece of our market and wants a piece of our industry and wants a piece of the businesses and the communities that are here. And we can't let that happen.
Well, it's no surprise that I want another hour with the two of you, because I know we could easily kill that, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much for bringing your insights, etc. Those questions that we did not get to, we will get them to the panelists, and then we'll post the answers on our website, MichiganBusinessNetwork.com, so you can get back to that. Again, thank you so much. And by the way, thanks for the good work you're doing for the state of Michigan. We appreciate that. Again, I want to thank Shaheen Chevrolet Cadillac, Dean Transportation, Sinair, BCI, Business Community Institute, Fly Lansing, LAFQ, and AP Laser. I want to thank my staff, Sarah Mosier, Benjamin Robinson, Michelle Kelly, and Jeff Mosier. These things don't come off without those sponsors or without my staff. Finally, if you'll see me after, the $100 gift certificate to Douglas J was won by Matthew Anderson. So Matt, you can go have your hair done. All right? And the foursome at the Majestic, Taylor Williams. So come up and get these after we're done. Finally, thanks to all of you for being part of this speaker series. If you want to go back and watch any of this or care to share it with friends, it's on our website, MichiganBusinessNetwork.com, in its entirety. Ben, thank you, who has captured all this. Stay tuned. We're looking forward to our MBN 2023 Fall Business Sports Luncheon, late November or early December with Jake Boss, who's the coach of the MSU baseball team. If you didn't get your parking passes, check on the way out where you checked in, because they're there, okay? Don't think about it when you go to the gate. It's too late. Thank you all so very much for being here, and again, thanks to our panelists. Have a prosperous month, everybody.
Oh, you want me to stay? Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure if it was just. Okay. Sorry, I thought I was out that one, but.